Good morning, I'm Jeff and Geest, Executive Chef at Miradoro Restaurant at Tinhorn Creek Winery. This morning we are going to make for you a chicken liver mousse, also known as a chicken liver parfait. So I love this recipe. It always works out so nicely if you follow the steps accurately. Excuse me. So we're going to start off. We've got the chicken livers, the eggs, and the butter. So we've got equal parts, so basically a pound of butter, a pound of livers, and 4 eggs. So we've let these sit out for an hour or so at warm room temperature. And that is very important, that these 3 items are nice and warm, and that'll help them in the blender to emulsify for all the fats and proteins to bind together nice and smoothly, so you end up with a smooth textured terrine in the end, mousse in the end. So those are just going to sit there while they're sitting there. We're going to, in a saucepan, combine shallots, brandy, and marsala. You can also use pork and some thyme. We're going to bring those up to a boil, turn it down a little bit, let it simmer, reduce it so it's almost dry. In the meantime, we can just wait for that to come down a little bit. So the idea here being, it's essentially a puree of the livers. The eggs help to bind it. The butter gives it just a nice smooth texture. And yes, there's a lot of butter. I don't recommend eating it every day, but it's delicious. Good for special events. This is how far we like to take that. So there's just a little bit of liquid left in there. Most of it's gone. Flavors are concentrated. The shallots are softened. The flavors have come out of the thyme. And we're going to add that to the eggs, liver, butter mix. Then we're going to add our seasonings. So this is optional. This is pink salt, nitrites. This will help keep the color nice and pink. Not everybody wants to put that in their food, but there's some controversy around it. The controversy is not founded in reality, because when it's cooked, it's completely fine for human consumption. So I'm going to season it with a little bit of salt here, regular salt, some black pepper, and then all of this is going to go in the blender. I'm actually going to put the whole thyme stems in there too. They're just going to get bashed around and really get some of that nice flavor out of there. And we are going to strain it off so the stems won't end up in the chicken liver mousse. I'm going to turn on the blender. It's going to get noisy here for a second. Now I've got a fine mesh strainer here. We're going to pass that through the fine mesh strainer. Any little bits that are left in there, any little chunks, thyme stems, what have you, we'll make sure to get out. Give that a scrape so you don't waste any. And I like to use a ladle. The bottom of a ladle works really nicely to push these kind of liquids through a strainer. You can use this if you're making jelly or whatever, sauces, purees, soups. It's got a lovely pinkish color to it, and that's where the pink salt will help to maintain that color. If not, you get a bit of a gray-brown color when it's baked. You don't taste the nitrites at all. To finish off, we've got a terrine mold like this. This is an already baked one. We would pour this into here, and then this gets baked in a 300-degree oven in a bain-marie. A bain-marie is a pan, like a roasting pan, filled with hot water. We would put this in there and fill it so the water came up about 3/4 of the way, And that just helps it create an even heating environment, so it's not too harsh around the outside immediately, and it helps it cook evenly. That's going to cook for about 30 minutes or so. And this is a custard. If you've ever made a lemon tart before or something like that, a baked lemon tart, you'll know that there's a bit of a jiggle test. When you pull it out, you're going to look, and if it's still really jiggly, it's not quite done. There should just be a little bit of movement in the middle, just a tiny little bit of jiggle. And that's when you know it's time to come out. This one's already been baked and gone in the fridge, so it's set up more. The butter and the proteins in there have set up, so there's no more jiggle left, but that's essentially what you're going to look for. So I am going to grill some ciabatta. I'm going to drizzle that with olive oil. This is a ciabatta we make in house, but I'm sure you can get some from a nice bakery in your neighborhood. Some of this brown stuff on top. So again, the spoon in hot water. I'm going to shake off the excess, so it's still nice and wet. It's wet, but it's not dripping. I'm going to get that in there on a bit of an angle like that, almost like a snow plow, and it's just going to fold over itself. So I'm going to just put a nice scoop on there. We're going to take some radicchio. We're going to slice that nice and thin. This is just the plating we do at the restaurant. There's lots of different things you could serve with this. Our grilled ciabatta. And then we've got some beautiful fir honey made with green fir cones that we pick in the spring. And they infuse in honey over the summer. And that's a nice counterbalance to the radicchio, the bitterness of the radicchio. A little bit of Espelette pepper, which is a dried pepper that we buy during the summer and dry on our back deck here at the restaurant. And I'm just going to take some nice Granny Smith apple. Just going to add a little tart edge to it. And then we get a really nice balance of flavors going on there. And there we go. So that is the chicken liver mousse with grilled ciabatta, radicchio, fir honey, and Espelette pepper.